All right, with that, we'll call the November 15th, 2022 Middleton Tourism Commission meeting to order. First items on the agenda are the approval of the minutes. We've got two sets of minutes, one from October 18th, another from the 27th. Anybody have any questions, additions, comments about those meetings?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Minutes are approved. As Mari stated, we're going to jump down beneath and then come back up to the director's report and the hotel updates since we got a little bit of a time constraint here. So it looks like the cross-country outdoor center, we got the approval of the Destination Madison Partnership Grant Letter. So discussion and approve the stipulations that are outlined in that letter.
I'm gonna bring that up, Lauren.
Yeah, it should be in the agenda packet.
Will this be in, will the attorney draft an actual contract for these things, or is this just?
No, our grants, this is what we provide for our grants.
Even big grants?
Well, we've never done one for 250, but this is what we've done for all of our grants. And because this is a destination partnership grant, not an MNSC grant. Which we also don't do full contracts with. They do contracts with like the hotels and everything. And so these are the stipulations. Most of them are the same that you have already seen. We made some adjustments. We added the section about hotel properties based on availability. We added a section here that they have to also maintain communication with City of Middleton staff, because obviously City of Middleton Parks and Rec have a huge part to play in this, and this will ensure, this will ensure that they will have to at least do like monthly updates with them, and it's in writing, so we'll be able to point to that.
I'm just gonna ask if anyone else, would there be a problem with having an attorney look at it just to put some extra, to make sure that this is in the best format? Because it's a lot more money than what we normally do. And would you be opposed to it?
I'm not opposed. It's going to cost us money to have the attorney to look at it, and we've already approved them.
Okay.
So when we issued the letter saying you were approved and we've already paid out the first 50, that was sort of our.
Well, that's not that, yeah.
We signed a letter of intent to the city administrator.
And that's fine. I just want to make sure it's not airtight where they can just.
If you guys want me to,
I'm
I
just
can.
asking other.
But what they will say though then is, my assumption is if we turn this into a legal document, it has to be a contract, because this is a letter. This is a letter saying here are your stipulations, which is what we use for everybody.
Okay.
But I feel like he might have comments of, this could be worded in a nicer way or something. But as far as legally binding, I can ask if you want me to.
No, I just want to hear, I'm raising the question for other people to have their thoughts. And if you want to put my mind at ease, I'm happy to.
So to her point, what is the legally binding process here? If they don't meet these requirements each year, then the next level of the grant doesn't happen? Is that?
Well, we signed a letter of intent for $250,000. And that letter of intent is kind of, the only way we could go back on it is, through this, you did not meet these stipulations, so we're re-reviewing your grant.
Sure.
But for us, it's a different situation because we've never had a multi-year grant.
Sure.
So if you wanted us to, we could go through the legal process and create a contract. I don't know how binding it would be because we've already signed everything. Right. And so that's something I could ask Matt.
Right. We've signed everything, but like you said, if they're not, okay, communication falls off.
I could add just a note. Failure to meet any one of these stipulations could lead to
the next year's grant being denied.
That's just, I'm just wondering if it would be.
Oh, is Jose?
Yeah, I was just gonna say what you're saying, Mari. I think if we just added a line that says if any of the stipulations or above are not met, the following year's installment may be rejected. Something like that. I don't know that it needs attorney review, but just aligns, just saying, you know, if you don't, if then, right? If these stipulations aren't met, then the next year's installment could be
So how about
rejected,
failure to
denied.
reach any of the above stipulations could result, will result in review and, let's see here, how do I want to put this? Because I want it to kind of sound like a probationary period, like giving them a chance to make good on it. So failure to reach any of the stipulations above may impact your, will result in review and probation and can affect the following year's installment by MTC.
Do you need probation? Try it without probation in there.
Okay, so failure to reach any of the stipulations above will result in review and can affect, I'll figure out a better way of writing this and I'll send it to you guys.
Yeah,
How's that?
but because a probation, and can, you know, which is just like a probation inside of it.
Yeah, I don't want to, I want to
That's
say
not
it,
too hard.
yeah, I want to say it absolutely will result in review.
Right.
And then we'll give them an opportunity to make good on it. Like if they're not communicating with the city of Middleton or whatever, we'll give them an opportunity to make good on it. And then we'll come back and say, we have reviewed this grant. You have fulfilled your stipulations. We will continue with your installment for the following year. And that way it'll kind of,
Well, it could be,
yeah,
will result in review period. Furthermore,
Yeah.
it could also impact your installment.
okay, great idea. We'll get that done.
Otherwise, I think it looks great.
Yeah.
And I know that a lot of this information that was included in here came out of boilerplate from the sports commission as well.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
a few things, like having the, and I think he said something like insist on at least 2 events a year. We said 1,
Yeah.
but Yuri said he's gonna do more than that.
Regular communication. Is there what are you anticipating with regular communication? Regular communication, but not less than how many times a year?
Let's see here, where?
That's on to the bottom. Second to the
Oh, yeah.
The last,
With
Yeah.
Ms. Middleton staff. Well, they have to give us quarterly reports, period. And then also, I said regular communication. I don't know, I guess I left that kind of vague. It's based on when he's having events. Like he'll have more cross-country events in the winter. The bike stuff is going to be less to him probably, and more parks.
yeah, I mean, I feel like it just has to be consistent with the events. I don't know if we can put like, you need to talk to us every other week or, you know, something like
Well,
that.
then maybe it should regular communication based on events or based on. I mean, regular is different and what you're looking for.
No, that's true.
It does say it must communicate on a monthly basis with the Madison Area Sports Commission members with updates to share events and collaborate on booking events and business. Visit Middleton partners with MASC to bring sporting events and business to Middleton and Middleton hotel properties. CXC Center is required to work with MASC.
Yeah, that's the new thing I added.
Yeah, no, I like that.
I could say monthly communication with Visit Middleton staff and city staff instead of
Okay.
regular.
That's very regular.
Yeah, monthly is.
I mean, and that could be anything from just checking in to let you know we have no
updates,
new
yeah.
updates or events coming up.
Right.
And a communication could be an email, could be a.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
it doesn't say it has to be in-person meeting.
Oh, no.
Let's see, still up for.
That sounds like,
I overthink.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
I'll add that one
Well,
extra line
yeah.
and then we'll get this set off.
Good.
I mean, he has the old letter, but I told him that we would be discussing and probably adding to it.
Yeah.
So he does have the original letter. So, okay, I will get that done.
Next item on the list is the outdoor center naming rights. So right now it is listed as the Nordic Center. Who's got creative brains in this room? I'm not the guy. I'm not the creative. Science and math over here.
Like one of the things Yuri was just throwing out was Middleton Nordic
And I
Center.
think that makes
I like
perfect
Nordic.
sense. Yeah.
I like that because it's like, because people will call it the Nordic Center.
Yeah.
And that sounds kind of, perfect for what it's gonna be. But then having the Middleton in front of it means that in all official capacity, they have to include Middleton and not call it Madison or Madison area or
Right.
anything. It has to be
Yeah,
Middleton.
Middleton has to be in. I'm just questioning, like, I want to ask about Nordic Center. Now, this is supposed to be, going to be eventually a year-round facility, right? That we want events booked into year-round, weddings, whatever. And,
Well, that'll be phase two. The event center
okay,
is going to be where, well, I guess the tent is part of phase
Yeah.
one.
yeah.
Mhm.
Where are you getting married? Middleton Nordic Center in June.
That doesn't have a great ring to it.
No.
Like I said, that's not, I mean, it's like Tyrol, we were at Tyrol, so
Right.
and, you know, I think,
Tyrol Basin, yep.
I'm just, yeah,
yeah, I mean, so I don't
or,
think it has a
yeah,
negative connotation, but.
What do you guys think over there?
and bike events and.
What's the, I'm open to whatever. I'm just wondering, like, what is the history of Nordic? Was that just something that somebody liked and was like, I don't know what
Oh,
call it
I think
Nordic?
it's just kind of one of those things where that's what they started calling it because they needed to give it some sort of a name for fundraising. And that's why Yuri's asking us too, because fundraising is going to be kicking off. They're going to be printing materials and they need a name for phase one. Rather than just calling it phase one, they can say the XYZ trailhead or the blah, blah, blah center. And what I can do too is take whatever your suggestions are to Yuri and be like, does this apply to what we're building? Like, should we call it a center? Should we call it a trailhead? Like, what should we call it? Since there is going to be that tent for an event venue. But, yeah, the trailhead is going to have, it'll have offices, a little space where he can rent out skiing equipment. And then it'll have the space for Blue Plate to make their food, and then the tent. So the trailhead building really is more for the Nordic side, but the tent part, as you just pointed out, is going to hopefully be a year-round venue. But the main event venue will be phase two, and then we're not sure if it's going to keep the tent anymore. So even around huge events.
Yeah, I thought he said he wanted to. I'm fine with center. Trailhead means put your skis on.
Yeah, true.
But I think that-
I don't think it's going to actually look a whole lot fancier than the trailhead
Yeah,
because there aren't even public restrooms apartments. They're still going to
Okay.
use porta potties. So maybe center is too grand a word, but
oh, I don't think it's. Well, it's more than just, it's got 4 or 5 things going on in there.
Yeah, I don't wanna call it a campus.
Or a
No.
hub or any of
Yeah.
that, yeah. Center's pretty. Another thing to look at is the initials. I mean, because a lot of times people shorten things off,
and then MNC, if it was Middleton Nordic Center, MNC. That doesn't stand for anything bad, does it?
Yeah, yeah. Do you text anything with them?
Just look it up. That's what I'm gonna do. If anything awful pops up, you're like, oh, no.
But you're right about Middleton.
MNC is a construction group. Madison New Construction.
Can we put it out for voting to the public to give us suggestions? How do they want it to be
That will
called?
be a circus.
Mhm.
That would be a circus. We would wind up with, and it would take months. It would take months. Multinational corporation is also MNC. But I mean, I don't think that would, none of these things are bad things to be associated with, so.
Well, MNC, it's not gonna become a word, you know, like.
Right.
So this will be like, so I understand, it's gonna be the Middleton Nordic Center at the CXC Outdoor Recreation
Yeah,
Sports Center.
whatever they end up naming the whole peninsula.
Okay.
Could be a mouthful.
Well, and the event center, the big event center could be something like the Ports Center. You know, like it could be named after whoever donates. the
That's
logo.
true. That-
So if I
yeah.
end up having the name Ferdinand in it.
And so
Yeah.
it could end up being the middle, like, again, not saying, you know, just Middleton Nordic Center at the Erdman's complex.
Right.
Or the Erdman outdoor recreational facility or
Right.
whatever that they want to call it.
Mhm.
I like Middleton Nordic Center.
Okay.
I mean,
I have no bad
it's not
feelings
the
about
most
that at all.
creative, but I mean,
Yeah.
it speaks to exactly what it is. And
Well, it brands Middleton on.
and
That's
then-
Yeah,
not gonna
the
happen.
most
Probably
important thing
otherwise.
to me is I wanted Middleton on one thing.
Mhm.
Because otherwise it could be called like the Pepsi Center or the whatever, and people, when they refer to it, they're like, oh yeah, we're going to the Pepsi Center in Madison. Yeah, and I want Middleton to be on some part of it.
And I like that it's at the beginning and not like the Nordic Center at Middleton or in Middleton. It's the first thing you said.
But I'm not married to Nordic either. It's what he's been calling it, so I just automatically started calling it that.
That's good then.
That's to me.
Getting into anything else kind of lends itself to more words and more.
Yes.
complications.
Right.
I mean, you guys are, I think you're all right that we need to keep it as short as possible.
But, you know, one thing that we talked about too is that the bicycle component of this too is gonna be big for bringing in summer, you know, leisure travelers and stuff too, so.
What if it was the like just the Visit Middleton logo, Nordic Center?
I was thinking the same thing.
I have no idea if we would be able to brand it. I can ask. Branding opportunities.
I mean,
You
obviously.
don't really have to use the visit but it's on the building, it's on the logo, it's like on all the materials. that
It'd be
are-
awesome to get
but
that
it's the
brand
Middleton-
recognition.
But it's the
When people
Middleton
are
Nordic
talking
Center.
about it or when
How many
there's
times has Middleton
advertising
branded it?
that isn't visual, Middleton is
A
not part
number.
of that conversation.
That's the only.
If it's just the logo, then.
Well, the full name would be Visit Middleton Nordic Center.
So it
And
actually
so-
would say Visit Middleton next to it, right? Actually, the words there.
But then when you're talking about it that way,
You change
you're incorporating our logo into something that's
Their
going
logo.
to be branded.
Yes,
And I don't know how that works,
right.
you know?
Right.
Because like, I'm thinking about buildings like the Quest Center in Omaha, which is now the Pepsi Center or something like that, you know? They don't use their logo. It's like a different typeface,
Yeah,
but their name, I think.
yeah, I don't know. That might
So
be.
let me do some digging for you and
I
find out how
think
many.
there's gonna be a lot.
Have that logo with Nordic Center on it.
Well, I can ask, because that would mean that anything he branded for the Nordic Center would have to have our logo on it too. And I just need to find out if that's even acceptable.
I'm just afraid the note logo would change. I am.
Yeah, we definitely.
Oh, they would
difficulties down
they
the
would
road.
probably change colors, because they'd be like, well, we don't want to do.
Well, she means
pink,
like,
we need green.
You would want to rebrand in 5 years again.
Yeah.
You're still. That's what she-
Oh, we won't be rebranding for a long time.
We don't know that. I've heard that.
Generally speaking, you don't want to, because you
right.
spend so much money for people to
Um,
recognize you.
Well, our website's always gonna be Visit Middleton,
Yes.
so at least we have that. Like,
Yes.
if it's called Visit Middleton or visitmiddleton.com.
Any events that we have there, we get any grant to it, we're gonna get the Middleton. From those events. I don't wanna make
It's
it.
worth an ask.
Yeah, I don't wanna make it hard on them.
Well, and I think he's working with people too, so maybe it's like, I send an email and just ask, here are some of our questions, what are best practices for naming a building?
So just to circle back, so this, at the trailhead, it will be administrative offices, ski rental, and then you said Blue Plates, like restaurant or kitchen or
Kitchen.
kitchen.
And then all the serving will be done in that outdoor tent, which
But eventually, will the kitchen remain there or will it go into the bigger building?
I think the kitchen's supposed to always remain there and the major event center is supposed to be built nearby. Isn't that what we saw? Okay. But the tent may or may not stay.
Right.
The ultimate goal was to build the event center large enough that they would need a tent. But if they've already purchased it, he was saying, if we have events where we're like, we're gonna fill the event center and we need a tent, we'll keep it.
Yeah.
But I can't promise that the tent is even gonna be a permanent part of this phase one.
And for this thing, what is the expected like mix of recreation between skiing and biking and other types of?
That's an excellent question, because he only said ski rentals. He didn't say anything about getting into bike rentals.
Yeah, no, I don't think that that's part of the plan. I think,
Because the bike park is in a different location.
Oh, so biking isn't really part of.
Not, well, it's part of the overall outdoor
Complex.
center
Yeah.
of whatever we're
And
going
it's
to
part
name
of
it.
what's driving.
I've
the
just been
grant,
calling it
too.
the CFC Outdoor Center, but that's part of the overall part. But like, from what I understand, the bike park is like over here, and this is the cross-country part.
yeah, so there's
There's
a
the
pump
pump
track,
track, but
right,
then you can still use
the trail.
the trails
Yes.
too.
For fat
Yes,
bikes, so that was part of the
And they're going
discussion
to do
years
free
ago
trails.
when you first started talking about doing this project was that, yes, it's cross-country skiing, but in the summer, we could
Mhm.
attract fat bike competitions
Yes.
or whatever competitions, so.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily, it's not gonna go to the naming of the facility, it's not gonna go to the operations of the facility, that was just him throwing out there that, look, this land is multi-use, we can use it for other things. Right, so that because it came up in discussions about how are you gonna stay busy, how are you gonna make this place financially solvent, how are you going to this and that, right? And so the tournaments that we could bring that are outside of the use for cross-country skiing was just him showing viability, I think, of the venue.
The other thing too is like when I was thinking about like recreation or outdoor, calling it Middleton Rec Center, everyone's gonna think a completely different thing.
Oh, no.
And I do think that the overall space is going to wind up with something like yada yada outdoor complex or outdoor center, because to try to include cross country and bike and whatever else, because remember during his presentation he was talking about the free trails, so you can have kind of off-road, gravelly and paved, so that people of different abilities, basically, like I would be on the paved or I would fall over, can use it for both walking and biking. And so I think the overall name will have a more like inclusive term for the entire outdoor space.
More generalized.
Because I kept thinking, oh, we could call it something outdoor or whatever, and I'm like, wait, that's probably gonna be the overall.
I think the Nordic's gonna point them up onto that area, because that's where the Nordic activities are gonna be, and we just, you want to generalize.
But, okay,
Yeah, I like
So-
Middleton Nordic Center, and if they respond positively about putting the logo there.
okay, I'll float that to him,
Yes.
or even if not using the logo, using still our name.
So it's just a lot of them that combine.
Oh, they combined it.
Combined
I
logos,
like
you know
that.
what I mean?
And- And I actually have a little advertising money, so I would be happy to be
Combined.
part of the process of
Design a
design
Hybrid logo.
a hybrid logo. So that we don't lose our look.
Right.
Okay. You guys, this is coming together.
I like the idea of it because then it points the attention back to this office.
Yes.
Versus just Middleton.
Well,
You know?
and maybe it'll tell people too, like, if you're gonna come and ask us for big bucks, our name's going on.
Knowing from where we're going.
Yeah, you're like, okay, if you're coming to us, well, I mean, heck, our name's on all sorts of stuff for Bach Fest,
Oh, yeah.
and we only give a grant. So.
I know.
And on the terraces, that kind of thing.
So is everybody up there cool with that? Like, we're gonna float the name Middleton Nordic Center, find out how it all works, and talk about a hybrid logo option? Okay.
Sounds good.
All right, I will get back to all of you. This will make, at least this shows Yuri that we're still talking about it. All right, we can go back to we can start back from the beginning. Jim?
All right, hotel updates. Nothing really has changed in the last month since my last update. You know, we're getting to that time of year where business travel starts naturally tapering off as is. Yeah, I mean, I guess I really don't have much to add. We're getting into holiday party season. That's really about it. What about you?
Same boat, basically. Everything's tapering off, but happy to see some 2023 inquiries and contracts come in for
Yeah.
Q2, Q3. So after our short 10 and 12-week timelines that we've been wrestling with, it's nice to have a 9-month timeline.
Yes.
And I think Jim's Lacrosse America thing had already gone through and ours did go through, so those rooms are fairly locked up.
Anybody have any questions on that before we move? Because that's a great segue actually into part of my director's report. So MASC, I told you all that there was a rollover fund. It was originally reported about 35,000. And then we used, I think it was lacrosse that we used the rollover fund for. So we're now at like 27 something. And then let me find I'm going out of order. One second. I wrote it down. I actually did write it down. We're at 27,500. My suggestion for this would be we start phasing that out, that rollover fund. What it's supposed to, what the intent would be is that we have this extra money banked if another event came through.
Yep.
But here's the problem with that on the accounting side. When you apply for a grant and I give it to you, it automatically gets applied to our tourism development percentage. But then if it's not being used and it's being held, then does that still apply? And if there were a big piece of business to come in and MASC came to us and said, you know, it's October, the money's tapped, but here's this amazing opportunity, we can always dip into our own tourism fund balance. And then it's money we're controlling, it's money in our accounting, and we know exactly what's being paid out. They told me that they work this way with a couple other groups too, so they don't mind having to maintain it. But from an accounting perspective on my end, it's logistically, it's just very difficult. And if we were ever to have go through anything from like a city, a commission, or a tourism type audit, I'd have to involve Madison in helping me with reporting. And so then I'm like reaching out to them and trying to get accounting. Well, what I'm suggesting is we can't go into 23 and just have them use it all and not use our own grant program because it'll horribly affect our budget use too. But I say like every year for the next couple of years, let's use 2 or 3 grants toward that until we've used it up. And then again, like if a huge opportunity comes around, like hockey costs us 25,000, we can always just go into our tourism fund balance because that's where it's coming from anyway. Like no matter what, it's all coming from the same bucket, but right now it's being held by different people. So that's my suggestion. If you guys are okay with that, then that's what I'll communicate to MASC, that we're going to start using that more. Like we'll still use our own budget, but we'll start using that as well for at least a few things. I mean, $27,000 will get spent faster than you think. So in like 2 years, I feel like we could probably clean that up without all of a sudden just crashing our grant program. Because we did already allocate 40,000. So I mean, again, if he brings us US hockey, that uses up half of our grant. I'm happy to do it, but I don't think that's coming back this year. So
Yeah, there's no sense for them to hold money.
right, and I just feel like, especially for us, it'll just be a lot easier to keep track of. And so the 3 grants we've already approved, I made sure that I've only paid out 2 of them because they have been official. And I'm holding on to the 3rd until I get the word. So that we're not adding to the total per month.
Have you talked to Bill Burns on how to show that line item until it's paid down? Because it is money that is part of tourism.
I haven't spoken to him yet because I
It would
just,
be a special fund account.
yeah, I just found out about all
Yeah,
this.
right.
And that's why I'm saying it's an accounting problem.
Right.
Because technically that's our money, but it's being held by another entity.
Right.
And so it's not being counted toward us at all, and it hasn't been for however long. And this was set up by, I think, Val. So it's been going on and accumulating for a while, and that's why I just, or the second option is I just ask MASC to cut us a check and we're done. And it goes straight into our tourism fund balance.
And what's the downside of them?
None, there's no downside for us, I don't think, because it shouldn't be counted as revenue.
Well, if they would do that, that'd be great.
Okay, I can double check, because it shouldn't be counted as revenue because it's money that we already had. It's just being held by, technically, think of it as money in two different banks. But I can talk to them about it and find out
I think you
what the
mentioned
downside
that.
could be.
So how did they
My
get,
preference
I'm
is
trying to
always
figure out how this happened.
So what
How did
happens
they
is,
get the money?
so what happened
Business
is,
was
they,
canceled.
yeah, they
Yeah.
applied for grants, business was canceled, and rather than refunding it,
Gotcha,
They held on to it.
they stored it.
gotcha.
Well, then they should be able to give it back.
Yeah, they should be able to just
Yeah,
kind of
it's just
check.
being held basically in an escrow account.
Yeah, but I will talk to Bill too on how that would work.
And by
Well, they
then,
should have told us, you know, what, I guess, it should have been gone onto our balance sheet. Should have come back to us and gone onto a balance sheet, onto our balance sheet.
Well, and,
Or should have been.
I didn't have,
That's what-
I didn't have any record anywhere that,
Right.
well, I mean, like in some of them, I had a record that maybe an event was canceled, but there wasn't anything that even said, like, was this refunded or paid out?
Mhm.
So Jamie actually went through with his accountant and figured a lot of this out for me and sent it back. So we now have, at least going back 4 or 5 years, 5 or so years, not to the beginning of this program, but we've got at least something to go off of. And then going forward, I'm only going to pay it out once I know the, like, I send them a letter saying, you will receive this money, so that he can tell the business,
Mhm.
this is promised, and they can make their decision whether or not to come. But I'm not cutting the check now until they've signed. And then, for instance, like with COVID, where something might back out later, from going forward, I'll say it needs to be a refund so that it comes back.
and if that has to be a line in the contract or whatever that they have to reimburse us, that's what it is. No?
So. All right, that answered that question. I don't think we need to vote on that either. I just needed sort of permission, I guess, to go forward with that. But I'll check on both things. I'll check with Bill on how it needs to be received and filed. And I'll check with MASC, and just make sure that there isn't a downside for us, like. Okay, that's all I have for MASC. So the next thing is a marketing manager update. We closed the second round, having contacted the first 6 candidates, and we closed without hiring. But crazy as it all was, thinking that, I mean, I created a whole document on how we're going to push through, and I shared it with Jim on like how we might go and rehire after the new year. And we received 2 more applications. So we've reopened the position as open till filled. So now, instead of having to wait like 3 or 4 weeks for it to close to receive applications, it can be pushed through as I receive. So I received 2 over the weekend. Both of them are excellent candidates. I'm incredibly excited. We're going to set up interviews as soon as possible. I'm actually out next week, so we'll probably set those up the week after. The way the city is structured, anyone hired after December 2nd can't start until January 3rd. Yeah, I just received that email today. And so I'm going to do everything I can to get those interviews set up for the Monday after Thanksgiving, and cross my fingers. I mean, it's very possible that neither candidate could start till January anyway, because with the holidays and
Right.
giving notice, and one of them might have to move.
But wouldn't that be nice for it to be their choice instead?
Right, yeah, instead of being like, I'm sorry, you can't be on the payroll till
Congrats.
3rd.
Live without money for the next one.
Yeah, and the holidays.
Yeah, right.
So anyway, I will keep you all up to date on that. But it was just, it's like
That's awesome.
feast or famine. I
Exactly.
was having a hard time this and this was going on. And as you guys know, we made some offers, you know, those didn't go through all of this. So anyway, I will keep you all up to date on that. So the next thing quickly, grant guidelines. So I did receive all the legal verbiage and I've changed that. And I've also added another line giving us a little more leeway for exceptions, because like the tourism grant is only for new business. But I actually added a line in there saying that MTC has the ability to grant exceptions for repeat business that have like an exceptional economic impact. So even if they've been here for 5 years and they're applying for a $3,000 grant and we know it's an incredible amount of business, we don't have to turn them away.
Yep.
So I added that to our grants and I changed the other things, but otherwise, and I'm happy to share that with anybody who wants to read them first, but otherwise I think we're ready to go live. And I will update the applications and we'll get that on the website. And then from there, I'm going to create what I've been calling the meeting planner menu. And that's part of the meeting planner initiative, the thing that I talked about at the beginning of the summer, and we're finally going to get to start it. But it'll just anybody who is completely unfamiliar with our programs, hopefully from this menu will be able to say, oh, I could qualify for this. This is how I apply for that. These are the other things that we can also do. And so we'd be able to share that with meeting planners, group tour operators, and hotel staff. So as turnaround happens, you kind of have a cheat sheet, and it'll live on our website as well. So we'll get that going. I've actually already reached out to the agency to help me design it, because I am going to ask them to help with some design work in the next month, because I'm just tapped out. I don't have time, but we have budget money left because we haven't been paying a salary for 6 months. So I'm okay. Speaking of which, the very last and happy thing, let me share my screen. I think this is it. Yes, okay. So Middleton Tourism Q3 revenue report. We captured $6,098 and $6,098,810 in Q3. And that is the highest Q3 we've had on record, period. It was higher than our 2018 Q3. It's like, good job, everybody. Like it's an incredibly positive way forward. I did adjust our expected revenue down quite a bit for Q4. And, you know, if you look at 2021's Q4 to what I'm assuming we'll get in 22, part of that is with the renovations going on 3 properties, we are essentially losing one whole hotel at a time. And also I just didn't see as much business being booked out. So I went low. Hopefully I didn't go too low. Like, I mean, hopefully this is still what we're going to make, because it's still setting us really well. The forecast, so this is just the budget forecast for you all. This is where we are on net revenue, current revenue plus grants. So we received quite a few grants, $360,000 or so. Oh, $391,000. This is our expenses, which is not even up to date because we've paid a lot of bills since this. Our revenue, we're in the black, which is not what we anticipated being at this time. When we set the 2022 budget, we set it knowing, kind of like we did this year, anticipating a shortfall. We thought we'd be $150,000, almost $151,000 shortfall at the end of the year. If everything comes through the way that I'm hoping it comes through, and if we don't have any crazy new expenses, like we used our contingency fund to paint the building, but it was still about $7,000 above that. So like right now though, we are looking at ending the year ahead. And that's largely, it's almost the exact amount of money that we got in grants. So without those grants, we definitely would have been in the red, even with the completely unanticipated Q3 and Q4. But right now we're looking like we're going to end ahead. If we end up spending the entire budget that we had budgeted, and if we make the revenue that we're hoping for. And also I just did quick calculations because we are mandated to spend 51% of our overall budget on tourism marketing and development. And that has a very strict definition what you're allowed to call tourism marketing and development. And if our original number would have been 68%, but right now it doesn't look like we are gonna spend everything in grants and that kind of thing. So right now I'm estimating 53%, which is still above what we are, but we usually shoot for much more than that. So I'm just going to keep a close eye on that and hope that we maintain that. During the pandemic, I don't think anybody was held to that standard, but given how well we've done in 22, we don't have a reason not to. So that's another reason I'm going to be looking at the grants and any other sponsorships coming up. Now, sponsorships that we promised now for 23 come out of the 23 budget, unless we decide we want to pay it out of this year, which I totally could because I actually have the funding for it. It's easier for me to track, but I'm perfectly happy to possibly like pay out some of our, because Gilda's Run has asked for a grant for next year and she couldn't qualify as a grant because you don't really have anticipated overnight stays. The event has been going around for 20 some odd years. But I was thinking we absolutely could be sponsors. Like it's a really amazing local event that brings people to town for a 5K, kind of like Haunted Hustle, kind of like Girls on the Run. We've been sponsors for them. But it would be a small sponsorship, like $1,000.
Everything helps.
Yes, for everything helps for them. And it shows that we're promoting a community event too, which I like, because we don't do a ton of those. And she actually is going to try to start tracking as well. She shared zip codes with me from this year, just so that I could see how many people are, and there were people from like all over coming for this. Are they staying with family? Like, who knows, right? Because she's never thought about hotel blocks or anything like that. But we talked about like tracking that in the future.
It'd be nice when they send out the packet or the
Exactly.
communication, just to put, here's some place to stay.
Exactly.
And I know anecdotally, they do stay, because as we're having those conversations at the front desk, what's bringing you to town, we hear all the time, I'm doing this tomorrow, or I'm doing this tomorrow, I'm
Exactly,
gonna 5K tomorrow. So it's not directly associated, but there is some.
And so those are just some things I wanted to keep you guys just kind of noting on, is that I'm watching that 51%. We're doing much better than we ever thought we would do in 2022. And it makes me feel even better about the budget we set for 23, which isn't a ton more of where we're sitting now, but we're expecting a shortfall. I mean, like, cross fingers. I just hope that putting this in writing didn't jinx us all. And if you have any questions about any of this too, or want to see some of the breakdowns, I won't share breakdowns publicly because it's proprietary information and it's confidential. So I won't share what all the hotels make with all of you. But if you were wondering, like, how do quarters break down, I have that going back years. And I can provide that, like, overall as a city.
Do you keep track of how close we are to 51% up throughout the year, or do you wait till the end of the year to see if
So,
we made it?
so the first thing I did, and I got hired, was I started looking. I don't know what Julie did. I don't have anything from that, and I haven't gone back and looked at 21 or 20 or 2019. I can't imagine we hit it though, because we cut marketing so much.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, but this year, I mean, I've just been checking. And like I said, like, if we ended up spending everything that we had budgeted for marketing and development and our original budget, we were at 68%-ish. But right now our revenue is gone. It's possibly going to go up. We haven't spent all of our grants. So that's why it's coming closer to the 53. I mean, we're still ahead, and I'll just keep looking at that like a hawk. Make sure that we stay at 51 or higher. Start contacting people and asking if they want money, I guess. I don't know. You know, there's always marketing that I could, like, there are tons of marketing things that have come up in the last month that I've said no to, because I'm like, oh, our budget. And now I'm looking going, oh, I actually might have some money where I could like run that ad or do that now. So we'll see. I don't want to spend money just to spend it, but I definitely want to make sure that we are always maintaining our 51%. It's a requirement by the state. It's a requirement by Destinations Wisconsin. And there's no reason for us not to, because we are membership based, which could badly affect your revenue. So
Did you gather any of that's last year? Oh, you swear.
Hold on, I think I'm done. I know. Well, I'm excited that this could be the first meeting where we're like, not here forever. Okay, yeah, so next, that's the only thing I have left is December. We generally don't do a lot of business. We might tie up a few of these loose ends, right? And I can email people so that you kind of have a heads up beforehand, but we can just tie up loose ends, and we usually do like an end of year holiday party. So if you guys are interested in something like that, we can look at places to do that. I don't know if we can have alcohol in here, so we might look for a menu. The city building. I'm not volunteering anyway. We've had it at the Marriott, we've had it at Knuckleberry, we can look around. But what we normally do is we supply food and we just kind of get together. It's not like a high stress situation. It's just kind of like an end of year thing. So, and right now we're set for December 13th. So if that date doesn't work for people, we have plenty of time to change that. December 20th, excuse me. So right now we're set for the Tuesday before Christmas. And I think in the past we've moved it up because some people travel. Okay.
But we can do it at the brewery. It's fine.
I don't care when it is.
But if there are dates that absolutely don't work for you in December, shoot those to me. And I'll just try to pick a date that works the best for all of you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's gotta be something.
Yeah. Well, and if we are thinking, I mean, you have a lot of holiday parties.
Yeah,
Quite a few, but I'm sure we
scooch it around.
Yeah.
Okay.
will be fine. That's work.
Okay. That's all I've got, guys. Easy.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So I'll move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 We have a
That's
special
already-
event program.
Yeah, I like that.
I
Bill.
mentioned
That was the
too.
first time it really-
And I don't
first
know
time in a long
anything
time.
about it, but,